Okay, so welcome to the Gunter City Council regular meeting. It's Thursday, July 1st, 6:01 p.m. All notices were properly posted according to Chapter 551. We do have a quorum. Wade is on vacation in Florida, so he won't be with us tonight. We are in the Public Safety Building at 105 North 4th Street, and we will open up with our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Captain Kramer, like to lead us?
Sure. Just ask anybody who has with me. Father, tonight we're just thankful for the opportunity to serve in this amazing city. Tonight we ask that you provide us the wisdom and the discernment and just a spirit of unity throughout our entire community. Help us make decisions that are all about you and that glorify your kingdom. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
So Adam is also out today, so I've got his streets updates. We'll start with agenda item number 1. Gosh, there's a lot in this one. So you're hooked up, Eric? Okay, because we do have one thing we're going to show on our lightning notification system. I know many of you know that recently at the bridges, we had a gentleman, father of 3, who lost his life with a lightning strike, just out playing golf. Wasn't a day that you would anticipate anything like that happening. But that also happened to one of my best friends in high school, lost his baby brother in 1995, Clay Jones, in Forney. And that triggered a whole lot of changes actually within the Texas legislature to require schools to have some sort of a plan with notification. And I did ask Captain Kramer, does ours have that? And he said yes. He doesn't know a whole lot about it, but I think with us growing and having so many people out at the park for like our event tomorrow night, that this is probably something that we need to look into. Captain Kramer did that, and I would like for you to come up and present what we've done in response to that.
Well, perfect. I do have to file a quick complaint though. My slide has been modified.
Okay.
You see it written in purple up there. Somebody changed the text up there to a purple color. Lavender, excuse me.
Lavender.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to speak, Mayor. Just in short, we were able to install this real-time lightning detection and warning system. It's out there on top of the one of the city buildings next to the ballpark. It has 3 different speakers that face it both through the fields and the playground in the old school area. And it's meant to be giving notifications to folks that are taking sporting activities or park activities in that area, and just make sure that they're aware that lightning has been detected. We have it currently set up under a policy of a 10-mile ring. So that's kind of that visual you see up there in the top left-hand corner. If it detects lightning in the 20-mile ring, it'll start telling us within city staff that, and the fire department, and police department, that type of stuff, that's beginning to happen. And then it'll notify us at 15 miles. And then if it gets down to being within 10 miles of the park itself, it'll activate an alarm system out there that basically is a quick siren and then a audible verbal message saying lightning has been detected in the area, please seek shelter. It'll say that twice. And then it has a amber strobe on top of it that will stay lit in a flashing pattern so people know you're still in that window of concern. It'll stay in that mode for 30 minutes from the last detection of a lightning strike within that 10-mile radius. And then when that is complete, it will announce that it is now safe to reconvene in the area. So it uses a lightning detection network that's used throughout the government, the military, and NASA, and a variety of other things to make a decision for any lightning strikes that are basically within a 100-meter area of that 10-mile radius. So it's a very accurate, very reliable system to help our folks to know that lightning's in the area and to take actions accordingly.
So detects 99% of cloud to ground lightning within the radius that we've set, which I think that's huge with our kiddos being out there on the ball fields. You just, that way they can get inside. So we'll have it tomorrow for our 4th of July event, and we will have some weird weather tomorrow. We've got some rain probably coming in the morning, and you never know when this is gonna pop up. So we'll have this system, and that way, the plan is if it goes off, we all go to the elementary school and we get inside. And then we wait until the threat's gone, and then we'll come back out and read it. So.
Question. Is there anything in the plan that we to notify the bridges, the golf course, if we detect something over here, do we have anything in our process to notify them?
So currently, we reserve this for city areas or city departments or city staff. It can certainly have capabilities of other types of notifications. There's a variety of systems that you can use to send it different directions, let folks know from the app and from the software that we purchased.
So Captain Kramer, how many times has it happened this week?
So actually, since we installed it, I think it was the end of last week, maybe the beginning of this week, I can't remember when it actually went live. We've had 4 different notifications already, worked flawlessly. I got phone calls. We got one of our firefighters that lives proximal to it. He's confirmed for me that it worked. We went out there ourselves and confirmed, because we get the notifications as it gets closer on our app. We can certainly provide that to y'all too. But we've had 4 activations already. Happens to have been a week that's had the typical summer stuff where we've had lightning in close proximity.
And it's not just the system itself, there's actual meteorologists waiting, that was a hard thing to say, meteorologists that weigh in as well. So it's got the detection technology, but then also the real person who's interpreting that and part of that process of alert. So that's a good thing. So pretty inexpensive because we were able to do it without bringing it to council. That's a good sign, right? And so we've got it for a year, and we'll decide moving forward if this is something that we want to keep. We'll see how it works. But when I asked Captain Kramer today, he's like 4 times in the last week. It's showing it. It's working. So I know it's not very often these things happen, but I think it's important. We're doing everything we can, right? We prepare with a plan, and then hope that nothing ever happens instead of just hoping nothing ever happens. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Captain Kramer. Okay, what else? Streets. So we have a few streets updates. We had about 71 potholes that were patched. Now Morgan says 100, but at least 71 potholes that were patched. Most of that was in the downtown area. Staff has met with Precinct 1 and Precinct 3, and we're working to get a plan, like longer term plan, just on our streets, and because us coordinating with the county, it's amazing that we have commissioners that are so focused on hey, what y'all need? And we're doing that now. So we're getting that plan so that we can have that mutual relationship and get more stuff done. We are working with engineering to obtain a quote for a street assessment rating, because we're going to have to start, we already have a list of everything that we have, all of our streets, and kind of how we think they're prioritized. But if we have to go out for COs or, anything else, bonds or anything on top of that, which I hope we won't have to, but if we do, then we'll need engineers to be able to tell us, to be able to back that up, this is what needs to happen. So we're working on getting all that in place. Block Road was done this week. So I haven't driven all the way down it because I'm not really sure how far they went out. They said they were going to go as far south as they could, county portion, but the city portion was repaired. So when I say repaired, because a lot of people go, it still looks kind of bad on the edges, and it will, because we have to fix drainage first, and then TxDOT's going to work with us on fixing that, around the street, those where it kind of breaks off. We can't do that now because the drainage and all those things are just going to continue. But there's 3 sections that we're kind of putting things into categories. So you've got your cold patch and hot patch repair. Cold patch is what we do, hot patch is what the county's helping us do. That's one level. The next level would be spot reconstruction. That's what we did on Block because there were some really bad potholes that you can't just go patch. You have to actually go in and do, there's several layers of doing that. And then there's full reconstruction. We do have some of those that are in the works that are coming. Burke Road is one of those that we have to do. I didn't think it was that important until Captain Kramer back here still, but I asked him, there he is, you're hidden behind Chief Jones. So I asked him how important Burke was to us, and he said, well, we went twice this week. I'm like, oh, and by far he says it's the worst street that we have. So we've got to look at doing something with Burke. And the good thing is it's county on both sides, city in the middle. So all those things with streets, we're working on it. We really, really are. When we say we're coming up with a plan, we are. Streets, okay, drainage study. So I know that Dawn's been working a lot because of MDD, working with Adam and the engineers to get our drainage study where it's a little bit more manageable cost-wise. And we've already made this decision to go that direction, and MDD has committed money toward it too. But we did go back, Dawn and Adam worked with T. Don Perkins and saved us $12,000 in the downtown area to kind of restructure how we're doing things and how we're going to get that, to the estimate a little bit lower, and they were able to save us $12,000. So thank you, Dawn, for that. You and Adam's work. The kickoff date for the study to start is July 17th. So that's right around the corner. And that's for the entire drainage study, not just the downtown. Everything within that, the scope of the study. Where else are we doing? Staff is meeting with legal and engineering next week to put contract documents together to move forward with the bid on the Broken Bow easement restoration project. So that should be coming as soon as we have that. Like, we're ready to go on that. We've committed, to bring back, when we get that estimate, we've all committed to take care of that. So we should know that pretty quickly. We're waiting on engineer's proposal for the price and scope work of the other section. Remember we said we expanded the scope of the woods. So behind where the Meadows comes in, DG's land, that fall off there is kind of pushing some stuff. And then of course, what's it called, One Crescent? Is that what it's called? On that side, we also have to include that. So the scope is, it's bigger, but we're waiting to get the proposal for the additional, probably close to 55 to 70,000 or so, and then we'll have to, of course, put more money into, that's the study, and then how do we fix it? So that's in the works. I think that's all on streets, drainage. For the July celebration, the park has been cleaned up. They've done a lot of work in the park with getting everything ready for tomorrow's event. If the rain would just stop. So we put a lot of mulch down in the park area, what we could put down without it being washed away. And then we didn't get the shipment that we wanted to really fully do the playground area, but there will be some mulch added all around. Just not as much as we had hoped. All the electrical systems checked, poles that were covered, fallen trees and branches and stuff removed. Multiple irrigation leaks. I was like, is this ever going to stop? That was fixed, and just added some fixes to the low areas. Let's see. Council, the chambers provided parking passes for you guys, so remind me if we can carpool up together, maybe we can give some more passes out, but we've got parking passes there. The council will have a 10 by 20 tent, and I'm told that you purchased that, Alan. So thank you for that. So, as usual, donating more stuff. We can't, this right here, Alan also paid for. So our new, we don't have that white cover. This is new. I like the blue on the black. It looks good too. So thank you for that. The MOU for the purchase of the school property, we talked about that, and that's going to be at the next school board meeting at the end of the month, because we didn't make it in time for the last one. They got to take that back to the board, and then they'll come back to us. So that's where we are on that. Okay, I can't think, but I think that's on my notes there. We have I added something to it since then. Updates, we did the lightning. Phone system, our new phones, the girls are so happy. They're so happy. Because now you can connect directly with Chief Jones over other side of Preston,
We've never been.
like they're in the same building.
And we can put someone on hold, we have music.
Music on hold, so you know you haven't been hung up on or disconnected.
And we can, now, before only 2 at a time could be on the phone, so you had to sit there and wait patiently. Now,
Seriously.
everyone can be, I mean, to where everyone in the office, all 8 of
At the
us,
same time.
and they can be on it at the same time.
And our phones work. They're
And no
updated and new.
robocalls, no twitching.
The endless ringing of the robocalls, once they start, it would just go half a day. And like, there were days out here, I'm like, I can't handle it, I gotta go. I'm not getting any work done. It's really distracting, but, and we still saved
$597.78.
every single month. All the upgrades, all the headaches removed, everything works now, and we're still saving almost $600 a month. So, for a better project, yes, it's great. For all brand new phones, everything, and everything works. So, that's gonna be huge. I don't like, it already is huge, so I think it's amazing. I do have a very, very exciting announcement though. So Eric, do you have my presentation?
Oh.
I want to remind you guys, when we started this process, this council took on the whole MDD thing and said, hey, this could be better than EDC. We educated ourselves and everybody else as best we could. There's a lot of opposition we had to overcome. We did get the information out to the voters. And by the way, those Texas Ethics Commission's complaints against our website for Propositions A, B, and C were all dismissed. The state said we did nothing wrong by educating the citizens. The voters went to the polls. They approved us to switch from EDC to MDD. I do remember there were a lot of people going, well, there's not that much in the ETJ, we're probably not going to have any money. And at the time we were like, well, something better than nothing. And it's not about right now, it's about as we grow in the future, what that can do for us. And what that allows the MDD to do. So remember, MDDs were created in 1997. They were only for big cities that split 2 neighboring counties. So like Frisco, Collin, and Denton. In 2005, the legislature came back and said, all cities can do this now. Now 2005 to 2025, I don't know why we didn't do this sooner. There was a lot of talk. It kind of refreshed my memory from Facebook last night that, well, if it was so great, other cities would be doing it. And there are other cities doing it. Pilot Point's director of the MDD came in and talked to us and said it's been great. Aubrey, I think Argyle was one of them too, but there were several cities around us. And just because somebody else isn't doing it doesn't mean we should wait for someone else to do it. It doesn't make any sense. It was good for us, but I want to show y'all the results because this is very exciting. So, and our board is amazing. There are no council members on our board right now. As a last result, we might put one on, but that would only be if we had to for quorum. We've got Josh Long, Don Anderson, Paul Walker is president, Micah West, Jessica Dunn, Christina Zielinski, and we have 1 open seat. So if anybody is interested, you can apply at any time. Anybody can come in, anybody can be removed at any time for any reason whatsoever. So we've got an amazing board. The little bit of conversations I've had, they have a strategic plan. They really have a lot of great ideas, and I'm excited about this board. But I want to show you an update. So here's what the city received in sales tax. $60,809. Because remember, we get 1% of the 2% that we bring in. We get 1%. The streets, and then the MDD is split between the other because they both get half. So 30,000 each, and then we got 60. So go to the next slide. I want to show you what the MDD did. They got their 30,000 from us, our portion of in-city. But y'all, look at what they brought in the ETJ. Oh my gosh. $47,750 first month. That's month number 1. Now, I think in the budget, Eric's portion of his salary is paid by MDD because he's their director for now at least, maybe when they get bigger and we grow, Eric's gonna not have time for this, and we'll take on his salary, but right now, I wanna say 43,000 of it, Don, do you know?
It's 47, I'm sorry, 45,000 that we are contributing.
That you
for.
contribute. So MDD just paid their portion of Eric's salary first month out. Y'all, that's huge. That's huge. So their total, you look at here in comparison, the city brought in 60,000. That's all we get because we don't get ETJ money. But the MDD got their half from us, and then the 47, they brought in 78,154. They knocked it out. This knocked it out of the park. You guys knocked this out of the park. And thank you to the voters because this is huge. Yes, Don.
Out of that 47,750, have we determined whether that was just 1 month or whether it is
Just
a
1 month.
compendium of 2 or 3 months?
It's just the 1 month. That's 1 month.
I like it.
Now, go to the next slide. If it continues this way for 11 more months, we could be looking at $500,000. So the voters got this one right. I mean, you guys just knocked this out of the park. This was a good decision, and thank you for voting for this propositions A and B because that says it all right there. It's $500,000 we wouldn't have got. So thank you, proud of you. I think that's pretty freaking awesome.
And it doesn't stop, it keeps coming.
It just
Next
keeps
year.
coming, and as
And
we
it might
grow,
increase as we put more people out in ETJ.
Yeah.
Get rid of our ETJ.
now we don't have any. We don't know. There's no way to predict what sales tax is going to do. But the first month already exceeded everything I thought I would ever get for the year.
No way to predict what our ETJ is going to look like.
That's true. So, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So I just think this is exciting. This is exciting for me, and thank you guys for being willing to bring this to the voters because I think this is huge. So that's all on the MDD. Yep. Okay. So let's go to,
Can I just have one comment on
yes,
drainage?
this is part of your report too.
On the drainage, and I know we're gonna talk to one president, but I know that one of the things that we're looking at is what has changed from the original.
We're evaluating that, yes.
So
The original plans.
that would, I assume, come in. I don't know that we wanna have a drainage for as is without considering that.
Well, I think they looked at it before because they started doing some work in that area. We have some plans originally that were then stopped on a portion of it, that they redesigned some stuff too. But
Yeah, what I don't know from a timeline perspective is, do certain things change, and was that before the drainage study or after?
Well, see, the scope didn't cover that. Now we've expanded the scope to cover that. But I do know this, she was the original engineer
Yeah,
that included all of it, so she's very familiar with that.
okay,
And that'll be part of her report. If something has changed from original design, that'll be noted.
could we put something
Yeah.
on the agenda for the next meeting, because, the citizen most affected by that, Millie,
Yes,
has a
and
lot to
actually,
add to that.
Eric, will you make a note of that? Because you did ask me for that, and the only reason I didn't put it on
We're
this
not ready.
one, we're not ready
Yeah.
because I wanted, if we're gonna go there, I would prefer the engineer herself be
Yes.
here and explain it.
Yes,
So could we do that, put that on, if you'll check with her when she feels like she could, with all her information, discuss it and explain all this to us, the woods overall, because I think it does help people in the woods to understand, why we need to do these things. And why it's worth the funding to do whatever it takes to get the drainage situation taken care of. Any other reports from you guys, or, because this is your section too, is there anything we need to update or that we missed? No? Okay.
I think it's something happened.
You always do. Okay, William's fed and caffeinated tonight, should be a good night.
Yeah, double caffeinated.
Triple,
Oh,
triple. Adam left in 3 different types of coffee, and he thought that meant do it all tonight in one sitting.
restroom's right over there.
That's what the instructions imply.
The instructions, yeah, okay. Okay, so regular agenda, we are going to, item number 2 was to look at our procurement policy, but because there were some weird things in there
Yes.
that were more restrictive than the state, and it didn't make any sense. But Courtney asked if we could just do a, indefinitely postpone, because the legislature just made some changes that are gonna affect this anyway. So can we come back to this another time? You guys good with that?
Yeah, instead of tabling to a date certain, let's
Yeah.
just remove it from the agenda and know that it's gonna come back.
And knowing that it's gonna come back
There once
when
we
we
get it.
can, yeah.
Especially since we got,
Oh, well, because we have to change it too, and we're not really ready to like
Well-
make those changes. So now you all have it, you can read through it.
I mean, the list of stuff
Again.
that's going to special session keeps changing, so
Right, so,
who knows what we're gonna have. I mean, we could,
Yeah.
there's some things we can take out now, just get rid of,
Yeah.
but
but let's do it all
we
together.
have to do, well, I'd get rid of all that DEI stuff now, whether we revise the rest of it.
That was why I brought it to you, because some of this stuff was really stupid. Okay, so we're gonna indefinitely postpone that.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Okay, so agenda
Well, do we have
number,
any more major purchases coming out that we would have to do that under? Because we wanna get rid of some of those
No.
really ridiculous things. Okay.
nothing, I mean, no, I can't think of anything right now, so. Okay, so agenda item number 3, discuss, consider act upon accepting and awarding a demolition bid for 1145 Stonebridge Pass. One of the requirements for this bid, besides taking it all the way down to the ground, which you guys ordered, was that I told Deetra that when they put in these bids to make sure that one of the requirements was that they can start on July 7th, Monday, because we don't want to wait another day. So each one of these
All 3 of these were
understand
notified that, yes.
that, okay, so when we award the bid, then that
Contacted
motion
them
needs
tonight.
to, whoever it is, that if they do not, they call us and they say, well, we can't start until the 14th. Sorry, then we go to the next lowest bidder, because we have to go with the lowest bid. That's how it works.
We have to go with the lowest responsible bid.
Responsible
Yeah.
bid,
Check my memory on the statute, it's lowest responsible bid, it doesn't mean we have, it's for the best value bid.
But
Not
we had to
required, just-
bid it as a best value contract, and if
Well,
we didn't bid it that way, we can't award
We
it
bid
that
it
way.
as, we
Yeah.
bid it as low, but still lowest responsible.
We
bid.
did.
If the bidder, if the
Yes.
lowest bidder numerically isn't responsive properly to the requirements that we put out, we don't have to take them.
So is
it a contingent award based on
I'm asking for that, because yes, they all said they will do it, but if we get a call on Monday, and says we can't be out there till the 14th or whatever, sorry, you just lost the bid, I want the authority to go to the next one, who did say they could come out Monday. I don't wanna wait another day.
So.
I notified all 3 of them, told them
Okay.
that was stipulation, non-negotiable.
Were-
If
were there-
whatever's awarded, I would contact them.
Other than money, were there any differences in the bid responses? None of them said they would do more or less or qualify anything?
No.
They just said, yeah, we'll do it the way you quoted it, and here's our price, that's it?
It's kind of simple, they can go out and look at the property, it's gotta go down to the ground, keep the lot's gotta be cleared. Yeah. So,
Well, I move that we accept, conditionally, we accept the lowest bid, contingent upon them being able to start on July 7th. If they are not able to start on July 7th, we move to the second lowest bid.
so that would be H&H Demolition. Okay,
And
do
the
I have?
second would be Albert.
Yes, and then Alfred would be second, so do I have a second?
How much were the bids?
22,000 was the lowest, then 25,134, and then 29,450.
So there wasn't a huge difference in it.
Not a big difference, no. No.
I'll second Cindy's motion.
Okay, so Cindy with a first, William with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous.
It's coming down.
Yeah, we need to get
Yeah.
that thing out of here no matter.
Yeah,
It's got its
And
own
if it's a
page.
couple of $1,000s one way or the other, just
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to get
That thing's coming down on Monday. That's exciting too, because I'm tired of seeing it myself.
Yeah.
You are too, you gotta drive by it every day too.
Well, it's a nuisance and a
It's awful.
danger. Who knows what else is in there, and
I know.
it's not being maintained, nobody can buy it, it's gotta make the
For
people
what
that
it's
are living
worth.
next to it miserable.
For what it's worth, Mr. Bunkley called last, what
Thursday.
day was that? Oh, you were gone. What,
Yeah,
first
last
Friday?
night, it's last Thursday.
I
It
can't
was
remember.
Thursday,
Captain
'cause-
Kramer was there. He heard the conversation. I let him talk. I explained the facts of, we held a hearing. This is what the council found. I'll hear you, but I have no authority to change anything. So at the end of the day, he said, I'm so sorry that it, took so long and that, anyways, he was apologetic. So I'm just, for what it's worth, there it is. Okay. Discuss, consider number 4, discuss, consider, act upon a resolution acknowledging Senate Bill 2038 petitions previously denied by us are now released from the city's ETJ. And there were a lot of them. What did it go through? A through M, I think. We listed everybody that we denied. Yeah, A through M. And all of those that we denied, this is a resolution that says, obviously we did this because of anticipated legislation that might be overturned, but then the legislature went back and clarified some things. Now we really don't have any reason to wait. It's gonna be, as a matter of law, it's gonna happen, so
Well, it has happened
It
as
has.
a matter of law.
we just need to acknowledge it.
And the legislature
And remove them.
cleaned up the language.
Right.
Instead of removing it, they cleaned it up. And the court battles that were waged by several cities have not resulted in what cities were hoping for. So at this point, so that there is an official requirement that the city update its ETJ maps and file with the county, this action will get that taken care of.
So with that, I mean, it is what it is, but we're under no obligation to offer any kind of a ILA for fire service, for police service.
And
for
we're
that.
about to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that's
And
a
that-
different topic,
That
but
comes
yes.
with it, right?
That's
Yeah,
why
once
I
they're
put
out
this
of
on
the
agenda.
ETJ, they're out of services from the city.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we're about to talk about that,
Okay.
and this is why. So, once we pass this resolution, we're acknowledging that we're pulling them out of the ETJ, and then we'll talk about that here in a minute.
All right, I make a motion that we approve.
Second. Got a first with Dave, a second with Cindy, all in favor? All right, that's unanimous, we're gonna
Let
move
me
on
go ahead and
to.
state this for the record, for what this is, for the
Okay.
resolution number, it will
Yes.
be 2025-07-03-1.
Perfect.
And this was only for petitions that met the statutory requirements of a
Yes.
petition.
Right.
If you filed a petition that did not meet those statutory requirements,
Can I do it again?
they received a letter that it was not even coming to you guys because it wasn't complete. And those properties are still in our ETJ.
These A through M have received a letter from us that
They,
we.
no, they will be
Or they
after
will be
tonight, I'll
after
send it
tonight,
out for
receiving a
Monday.
letter. that they-
Those are ready to go.
Yes.
And then the other 5 were not.
And corresponding notices will go to Development Services at the county so they can update their maps.
Yes, absolutely, because then we have to go in and update ours, and then we will let the
This
county
whole
know.
thing has been a nightmare for the county,
Yeah.
especially with Messer
Oh, yeah.
going around telling everybody in the county not to do it and refusing to give the
Right.
information to the county.
Exactly,
Your staff is not gonna do it, I'm just saying.
that's right. Okay, so number 5, general discussion regarding Sunset Branch Municipal Utility District and other MUDs. So I sent you guys an email for information purposes coming into this, that some of the details that I found just looking at Sunset Branch online. Those details are a couple years old. Eric called the county and was able to get some more information that eliminates a lot of the concerns that I had. When I originally looked, it was like 105 35-foot lots that were gonna be rentals. And then there were like, I mean, it was incredibly dense. So the problem with this is that this is a MUD district. They don't pay taxes to us. They're not in the city. And the problem with that is that they're not paying services. And yet in their marketing materials, they're telling the future landowners, property owners, when they buy a home, well, you're in the Gunter Volunteer Fire District. You're in the Van Alstyne EMS District. Now that's changed in the last 2 years too. But we have to start looking at these things because our ILAs, right now as they stand, we're servicing the county. But like Van Alstyne did, they went and they said, you know what, we'll service and continue our ILA with the county, but we're not gonna do that. We're carving that out of our district because we can't afford to do it. Well, I'm telling you that we're in the same boat. We can't afford to do all this either. We have more of it than anybody else in the county. So I wanted Eric to show you, this is just what we know. In our limited research in the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to figure out, what can we find? There's others.
Are these muds?
Yes.
No, well,
But
not all of them
not
are
all
shown
of
right
them.
there. But-
Some of them are just developments out in the county that we have to service because they're in our fire district, and yet they don't pay the taxes. So we have a problem because we can't keep doing this. We either have to, and the county can't either, honestly. I don't know what they're gonna do this year because I haven't heard from Judge Dawsey budget-wise or either of our commissioners what's gonna happen because they're working on their budget too. So, you know, I mean,
Well, we'd be happy to annex them in.
exactly, and that's the conversation that we're gonna have. Look, if
Well-
everybody wants out of our ETJ and they don't wanna participate, then, I mean, okay, we'll cut you out of our fire district.
Yeah.
Now you're on your own.
Do we have to have an ordinance?
Well, we have talked to some that are already moving down the road of being a mud.
Yeah.
And they said they've already issued their bonds and stuff, so they're not gonna back away from the mud at this point. So they just won't get
Right.
services, I guess. But, and that
Which they'll have to
Yeah,
provide
I
for them,
thought
they'll
I'd
have
be
to
able
figure
to
something out.
cursor on this, but it won't on some of the sanitary points.
They
Some of
should,
them.
yeah,
But like,
right,
I have another map that I'll show you that's a little bit less detailed than this. It shows like
Right.
blobs of buds, but.
Yeah.
This is Sunset Ranch that the mayor was talking about down here in the lower left-hand corner with the yellow stuff.
yeah.
It's
That's
now
the problem.
switched from the information we've recently got from the county, of course, shows 614 single-family, 60-foot wide lots. So all the multifamily, all the higher density, smaller lot stuff
It
isn't
was over
being shown on
1,000.
this exhibit, at least. It's not an official submittal, is my understanding. It's not a plat or anything like that yet, but
Right,
is their concept plan that they're basing their mud off of, I would say. Another one that's a mud that is up here in the upper, the square above the bridges.
that's
is
Gunter Crossing.
Gunter Crossing, and
Yeah.
and they're that they were coming to the city at one time, but couldn't get it worked out for some reason at that time because of difficulties getting through the city or something, so they just decided, okay, we're just gonna do mud.
What's that guy's name?
Landon,
Landon,
Landon. Yeah,
there were
I
something
talked-
holdings.
great guy, I mean, it is what
Super
it is.
dudes, they're great, good people to talk to,
Yeah,
whatever, but it's just like,
Yeah,
we're already too far down the road.
Yeah.
This was a year ago when we talked to them.
it was when you were first here,
So-
and they had been burned
They got.
by the city before,
Yeah.
a couple of times, not just once, and they just said no more, you know,
And they're so cooperative, they're actually working with the county, they've worked with
right.
Rushmore to improve all of JC Maiden from their
To be next
development
summer.
south, so.
And then we're trying to work out arrangements for services. The problem is that I'm not gonna bring anything to you guys that forces the city people to subsidize their services, right? They gotta pay what we do. And that's hard because they already have the mud tax going on. But, I mean, it's theirs to figure out. We're
Well,
doing
if
our
we
best to
continue
work
doing
it.
it, our costs are gonna go up, which means
Yeah.
citizens' costs are
Well,
gonna
like
go
right
up.
across the street in the bridges, you know, if we're paying 75% more to get services over here than they are, like, why? They're also using our streets, they're using, I mean, it just, we've gotta figure out how to pay for services, or they're not gonna do it.
And the rest of these developments that are shown here are ours, they're in the city, just as an example to kind of show
Right,
the overall volume that is gonna increase to serve our, developments. And
right,
other ones that are in motion that we're talking to right now on the bridges for phase 2B, south of the one that final plat you just saw that's shown on here, is getting ready to kick off too. So,
right.
so overall, there's around 1,417 on this map alone of single-family dwelling units coming in, and that's not a few of the other ones. There's kind of one-offs. There's a few that we're looking at right now, going through some subdivision ordinance stuff with them, and maybe have to come in for a zoning change because they can't quite meet some of our requirements on 1 acre lots. So,
So only two things up here that are actually gonna be paying city taxes is, the preserve, was Gunter 66. It's called the Preserve now. And then the new addition to the bridges. Everything else is getting services and being added to our fire district, our EMS district.
Everything else is hoping to get services.
Hoping. Right
Yeah,
now,
we're not
they are.
obligated.
no,
Okay.
well, we are in this moment of time right now. Yes, they are part of our 911 calls. They're in our fire district, our ILAs. We have to look at this because as these just keep popping up, we're at a point where we can't afford to do this.
How do we get out of it?
We can't keep doing it. We redraw our fire district
We redraw our fire districts.
and we cut it all out.
already
You're not the
negotiated
city,
our
you're not
ILAs
getting
with the county.
services.
We're already into
You're back
carving
to at the mercy of the county to maybe you form an ESD, I don't know.
So
But
who-
we can't keep doing it for free.
Who redraws our fire district?
We do.
We do.
And is that like through ordinance we do it? Is that, how does that work?
We would have to do it through ordinance.
City ordinance says it'd be a map,
Yeah.
we're creating a
We'd
map,
have to
it's
redo
already
it,
your
recreate
district stuff
that.
right now, but.
We're already carving the map on the ETJ.
Yeah, I mean, Van Alstyne recently did it. They had a big mud come in and they said, look, we'll honor our ILA with the county, but we're gonna carve this out, not ours. We can't do it, not gonna do it. And that's, you're seeing these things happen in Anna, Melissa. I know Princeton did this with their Collin County Bud number 2. They don't service it.
To be accurate about Van Alstyne, they didn't say they wouldn't do it, they said they
Yeah.
wouldn't do it under the existing
The existing ILA,
that planned on low density
right.
population in the county. If those high
Right.
densities wanna come in, they can't come in high density and expect to be served under a low density contract.
Exactly,
That's what's happening.
exactly.
And if they want a service, if the city's able to give it to them, it's gonna have to be done at the level of service that they require and whatever that cost that's attendant to that service.
But then the county would have to, that's more cost that would come from the county to Van Alstyne. The county's already struggling with the budget to figure out how to even get,
Yes.
because you're building, Judge Dossey's, he's building a jail. There's a lot of stuff, so the budget's changed this year, and it's not gonna increase. But at the same time, Gunter's the city that has everything happen around us. We're getting the bulk of this, and we're not gonna get more money. So this is a problem for us. This is,
Well, it's common sense. You can't provide a service if there's nothing to fund it.
right.
You're either not funding it, or you're having the citizens subsidize people out in the county who chose to live
That's
out
not fair
there.
to us.
It's not fair to the citizens.
And then you spread too thin,
Even
you
if
can't
we could
respond.
afford it, it's not fair to the people who live here.
That's right, that's right.
But I don't think we can afford it.
There's just another exhibit that's more higher
Shows
altitude, but you'll see on there to the far left, there's Buck
The Buck Creek
Creek
Mud number
Mud.
1,
and the Grayson Municipal District number 2. We don't even know what those are. They're on
and
the left.
Kimberlin Ranch is an in-city mud.
Yeah, but we know what that development's gonna bring, because we've
Yeah.
seen a concept plan, but those other two that are
We
just
don't
on the
know
edge of our
anything
ETJ, which is the blue, I wasn't able to find out what those are, so the density on those could be higher than what the other ones that we've seen so far, I don't know.
So I know we need an ordinance to approve the new fire district, but what do we need to do to get the new fire district written?
That's gonna depend on budget, and I'm working pretty closely with Captain Kramer on making those decisions as we hear from the commissioners and Judge Dossey. I mean, he's got the budget that he's working on now. We don't know where we fit in yet. It's making me nervous. I called both of the commissioners in, and Captain Kramer was here too, maybe a month or so ago. A little bit of panic because I heard that some things were happening in the county that might have taken away some of our funding. Called them both in, we had a good conversation with them. They know what we're willing to do and what our future's bringing, and there will come a point, they're gonna need us. The growth's coming here, they're gonna need us. And we just want to keep things where, just, maybe give us another year of how it is while we figure all this out, because we can't do it in 2 months, 3 months, we don't know what all this is gonna do. So like, for example, Kimberlin, that's an in-city mud. It's really old. Do you remember when that was established? Like years ago.
Before we,
And what I'm thinking about,
before I was there.
yeah, so it's really old. And at the time, I'm assuming they did an in-city mud because they needed the funding for the infrastructure, particularly water. And maybe Gunter said, hey, we can't do it. We can't build it. So we'll give you an in-city mud. You build the infrastructure. But then we have to absorb the tax base. Everybody does, because now it's an in-city mud. Now we know that what we could do is if they don't want to just annex in and become city, we can offer a PID to get the infrastructure there instead of a MUD.
Yeah.
Which is perpetual forever and ever, and then we take on a whole lot more tax responsibility than,
We'll get nothing out of it.
And we've reached out to, we're trying to figure out how to reach out, contact the person that's the keeper
So that
and
we
gate
can
on
start
that one,
working.
as well as
Yeah.
multiple other
Right.
developer groups that are sitting out there that aren't MUDs or developer groups. I'm trying to find out, what their plans are at this point in time to start moving forward. And if there's something wonky in the DA, see if we can get them to come back to the table. Because some of the DAs, some of the developments have been flipped 2 or 3 times now to developers. And this is just a larger scale picture. All the areas in green are existing MUDs that the county has on their map right now.
Isn't that crazy?
So
That's a lot. That's just so much.
it's an NC kind of saying what change to get rid
I
of.
think it was from 2008.
If they want to redo their zoning and stuff, we
Yeah.
can redo them.
I mean, we can't service all this on just a handful of 1,025 developed acres of city. All of us have to pay for all of that. We can't do that. It's just not possible. And we do have to consider, not even consider, we have to start preparing for a paid fire department.
Yes,
Like,
we do.
what is that gonna look like? We can't do volunteer forever, especially at this growth. Just what we're putting in that is in the city, we have to start preparing, and we have been. It's just this year, Captain Kramer and I, we're like, we have to start,
It's time.
we have to put together a plan now.
We can't do volunteer forever, and we can't ask the
No.
volunteers to service everybody in Gunter, and
No.
then go out to the rest of the county and service all of that.
Right.
There's already
Yeah.
more than they can handle as it is.
We have a great team, we're not gonna burn them out and, we just can't do it.
We don't have
We
the
need more.
apparatus to fight, to take care of
We
some of
don't.
it.
We don't.
We don't have the apparatus to take care of these very, so, and the problem with these really high density developments is, we don't have the water to control fire in there.
No.
So, normally our
And we don't have any
strategy is-
information because Mustang handles all that now. They don't give us information.
Well,
They're
Well, let's
giving,
hope the water pressure is better than what it is at 40 fence, because they flat no.
yeah.
They're just like,
it's not,
let it burn, because we ain't got enough pressure, so good luck.
right.
But most of it's non-combustible, fortunately, so.
So, I wanted to show you guys this because that's gonna lead us into our next conversation. Really, I guess we can put the two together. Because that is, discussion of our city services and high density areas and how we're gonna define that and what we're gonna do about it. So let's move on into that. There's no action on either one of these. I just need y'all to start thinking about it. And we'll probably need to do some upcoming workshops once we know, we'll get our budget stable for this year. But as soon as it's adopted, we gotta start working on it for next year. We gotta start making these decisions to see what's gonna happen. And then really to give Eric an idea, because he's trying to reach out to them, we want him to go ahead and tell them, hey, we're not doing services, that's kind of what we're forced to do.
We're gonna need to decide on these interlocal agreements now, because it's time to get the new ones in place for the next fiscal year.
Right.
That all
I don't
wraps
have
up
them
this.
from them yet because they haven't done budget yet. For emergency services and fire.
Everybody's working on all their.
Everybody's
budgets
working
all
on their
around the
budgets.
county, So,
That's the part that's making me nervous, right?
well,
That's the part that's making us nervous. So,
but we gotta know what we wanna do, and,
yes,
the rest of them can figure out what they wanna do after we say
Right.
what we're gonna do.
Right.
And we should do what's right for the city and what we can afford.
and what we can afford. And
Those are the only 2 criteria that we really should be considering.
I did ask our commissioners to at least maintain the funding we have in place right now, because we're not in a position to just change everything right now and take everything on our own. I'm like,
And
please don't take
we
away our
already
funding.
committed to the non-high density, was what the county situation was when we went into those ILAs.
Right.
But the material conditions are different when you start seeing things like all these
popping
high
up.
densities coming in.
Yeah.
That was never anticipated under the terms of those ILAs.
Well, what's important too is not to pick on Sherman and Denison, but they have funding, and yes, they have a area around them that they're servicing to get the ILA money. But when you look at their area and you zoom out or in, a few little farmhouses here. They don't have this coming. So not that I want their money, but I want their money. We're the ones that have all this in our they don't have all of this. So I don't know what the commissioners are gonna do. We've explained where I hope they'll at least just keep us stable for another year.
The ultimate question is for servicing the non-municipal.
And it's not us.
Developments. And the answer is nobody.
Right. It's not the county either.
It's not the county.
Or if you're a mud, set up your own fire department, I guess.
Well, would be beneficial for us to get a meeting set up with Josh and Lynn's, with Eric. And
So-
maybe, I mean, William's around them all the time, maybe,
I mean, I recently did that, so they know where we stand.
right?
They know my concern with budget. Captain Kramer, I pulled him in. He happened to be here, and I pulled him in. We had a good conversation, probably an hour or so.
Yeah, I mean, I would like
So-
to get Eric, Captain Kramer, and Danny, and William, and me if he wants me.
Yeah.
And let's,
Probably is what you did.
Romance over here.
let's at least put it out there where we're at. I mean, they may be in the
Well, yeah,
same.
we definitely gotta start planning. We gotta get the regions drawn out. We gotta decide what we're gonna cut out, what we're gonna serve and not serve,
Right.
what everybody can afford to do. We gotta get it all drawn. We gotta
Problem is-
we gotta get Sarah Summers involved, let her know what the zones are.
Now, we have done
We gotta
that.
get 911 updated. We gotta get a bunch of stuff. is
There's so
triggered
much that
from
was
this.
just never done.
Yeah.
It's,
So, first thing should be drawn, figure out what we're gonna serve. That's the first thing we do, and everything else will flow from that.
well, and that's why she has asked us, when the mayors had met back in January, she gave us all of our maps, and they said they're terrible. This whole thing is a patchwork quilt, and she's not sure which string to pull because it could all come unraveling. Each mayor took back their maps, got together with fire chiefs and captains and their development and said, hey, figure out where we are. And what we're learning, we learned this today, our maps are not updated. They say one thing on the CAD, they say something different in the county, we have something different. That's what we're trying to do, which is why we also did our new mapping service, because our one prior to this was terrible. So now I know Eric and Captain Kramer are actively going piece to piece to piece, verifying what is actually existing.
Well,
Now,
That's the absolute first step, is make sure what we have is right.
what we have
and
is
then-
real.
And then decide what we're gonna change.
And we're going through and having to pull things from the ETJ, so it's just right now, it's Eric's not gonna have any here next year. I don't think he's gonna have any.
Every day, there's a new rabbit hole to go down.
There is, yes.
Very, very soon, like in the next couple of weeks, or close to that, we should do a workshop to sit down with the maps, draw them, look at all these high density areas, map them out, say this is what we're gonna exclude
Right.
from the general ILA. It doesn't mean we're gonna exclude them forever, but
Right.
any deals with those are gonna be one-offs that are special for that area,
Yes.
if we can service them.
Danny,
Right.
so,
Chief, did you have,
Chief Jones,
Yeah.
the police department. My question is, in the meantime, do we still operate, our officers operate in the jurisdictional authority we currently have in the old maps?
we have to,
until we do something
know.
different, but, I mean, that's why I think, I mean, you two guys are the ones that are gonna be most affected by this. So, I
Yeah.
mean, what you say is what we need to be listening to.
So I have 2 cents if you want it.
yes, we want it.
Couple of vision things I would encourage you on is really, you have fire and you have EMS. Those are kind of 2 different conversations.
They are.
So I would just encourage you, the answer to one may not apply to the other and vice versa, just a consideration. The current fire district that we serve today is one that you as a city have committed to serve under the contract that we have with the county that is generally an October 1 contract, okay? Caveat, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know exactly what we've agreed to by contract and et cetera, et cetera. That said, historically, we have continued to commit to that coverage area on an annual basis to say, hey, yeah, no changes, let's roll forward, right? And I would encourage us for this October range and our commitment to the current commissioners, that type of stuff, that needs to be where we stand currently, because none of these problems have actually morphed into response area coverage problems.
Right.
What we do need to adopt, in my opinion, is a concept of how we're going to integrate with those relationships with these folks that are going to present these problems to us as a group, as a unified front, to say, hey, you are currently in our fire district. We recognize that. However, we don't have an obligation moving forward after next October or whatever the case may be. And this is how we intend to, our expectations of you, if you want to continue services from us, fire, EMS, potentially law enforcement, that type of stuff. I think the key is that you all have to have a unified perspective that allows us to go and say, hey guys, this is what's coming, because this is the belief and the mindset. Now, pause there for just a second. We also have to consider that when we say we're not going to service you, and when that call happens, and that mutual aid request happens by whoever it is servicing them, now suddenly we're in a mutual aid situation where we're having to make some really tough life or death decisions. And so I would just encourage y'all to think, as we're designing what that looks like and how we want to make those decisions, is we recognize if this does go that far, we're in a position to have to make a really tough and difficult situation even tougher. Because we're having to decide how quickly we're going to engage, which could make it more dangerous. You know, there's a lot of trickle-down effects to that. But I think the key for us as a community is to develop our thoughts and theories and strategy that protects our best interest, and that those entities know that up front, that we hold strong to where our commitment's at, and we have a duty and obligation to serve these people. This is what it costs to serve them, so you pay the same. And if you don't, then we're in a situation where that negotiation now becomes a negotiation. Whereas right now, we're kind of in the what if component.
Would you agree, though, that yes, that's going to be a hard decision to make if we say we cut them out, we don't respond, then you've got the whole mutual aid thing going on. But if we don't cut them out and we don't have the funds to expand and we don't have the people, we don't have another truck, and yet we have to go service all this stuff, what happens when our own catches on fire?
100%.
Well,
When
not
our
only
own
that,
has a call that comes in?
what happens when the next 10 developments come in? We
100%.
can't keep doing it. And
Exactly.
we don't have an obligation, and we don't have the duty, so let's be clear about that. And if anyone develops out there in the county, and then they come crying saying, oh, nobody helped us. Nobody told you to build out there in the first place.
Right.
Nobody told you to build out there. Nobody asked you. There's nobody sending out emissaries outside of Grayson County saying, please come build high-density developments out in the middle of nowhere and make it difficult for us to provide services to you.
Right.
Nobody's doing that. These people are doing that because they want to. And it doesn't put an onus on us to provide that service.
And they're marketing it this way, are they not, Eric? Every one of these MUDs are marketing no city taxes.
Well, and I respectfully completely agree with what you're saying. However, I'm just letting us know that right now, we are obligated because we
have
did
our
this.
ILA and so the state right now.
And that is, the future of that is really what this conversation is
That
about.
ILA ends in October, and then it's time to renegotiate.
Well, I
I'll have
believe
to get it before
my
then.
personal opinion is those negotiations, as I think you're mentioning, are right now.
Yes, they're right
They
now.
are.
And understand in the background, we're trying to get it adjusted where the areas that are in our ETJ are part of those response areas too, because that allows us to have a very intentional conversation that as you come in, you're already receiving fire and EMS from Gunter, right? And so if you want to continue that, we need to be in a position where we're providing that when we're having that conversation. And that said, is that as these places pull out, and I believe you can check on Van Alstyne and how they've chosen to handle this, their renewal timeframes that traditionally were annual, right? They just start pulling back the timelines, right? You don't make a year-long commitment now. Now, I don't know how long we're provided to give a notice of intent to change there. That's a part of this conversation.
ILA for this year.
Do what?
I don't have an updated ILA for this year.
Okay.
The county hasn't.
So traditionally they would give that to us in October, and we would have signed that in October, so I'm not sure where that's at. But what I would say is that there's probably a clause in there that says, hey, you got to let us know X, Y, Z in advance. and this is not just Gunter, a lot of the fire departments are dealing with this, right?
Yeah,
We've been
it's
to
every city.
multiple
It's every
meetings,
city in
but
Mason
I think the key is, as we develop the vision of how we want to do this, is that we're able to go in there and say, hey guys, here's your timeline. We have a duty and an obligation to serve the citizens of Gunter with these priorities in mind. And either you get on board or we're going to be in a tough situation.
Well, we will be. If it gets too complicated, we just pull back to the city limits and say that's it, done. Then it's easy, then it's simple, and everybody can understand it.
Yeah.
So the ETJ.
And then you can petition to come into the ETJ, and then you can petition to annex in.
So the people
And they
who
get services.
just annexed out of the ETJ
They're probably not gonna get services.
are not gonna get service.
They're even further down the run because they're not even in the ETJ anymore.
Exactly.
Right, they're total wrong, so they've removed
So-
one layer of
Now,
Themselves off of the
Part
list
of this is that when
priorities.
that happened and the legislature said you can do this, there were attorneys who went parcel to parcel asking people, do you want to get out of the ETJ? Because they're gonna make $2,500 to do it. These people don't even know why they want out of the ETJ. They're just like, okay, yeah, sounds good, no restrictions, I can do what I want. Well, you just lost services. So now what we'll do is we'll reach out to those who pulled out of the ETJ and say, do you want services or not? Do you want back in? Because maybe the attorney should clarify that that's a possibility before you got out. And then you gotta go through the process of coming back in. We will let you back in. But I think that they don't understand. They don't even know why that they're out. I think probably 99.9% of them got a call from an attorney, don't
Well,
you want out?
Heidelberg knows why they're out.
That's when
we-
somebody sabotaged the
I'm gonna
relationship.
say, I mean, there might be attorneys out there doing that. I don't know any that are, and I don't know anybody that ever asked to get out.
I could say it out
that didn't
loud, but I
initiate-
won't.
that- I don't know anybody that got out of the ETJ that didn't, the owner didn't initiate the action. I mean, like I said, there could be attorneys out there suggesting.
There's
it,
a
but-
firm that does this.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
well, they shouldn't be, but.
Yeah.
But.
What a disaster for you guys though, because.
Yes.
What is your address? Oh, yeah, nope, you're on the list, sorry.
Which is why I'm being very
And then the
defensive
fire
up
moves
here
up
about
somebody
Because
who
the,
he's actually gonna
the
make the
challenge that
decision
you're
to not
placing
go.
on us
I know.
is
It's
a very
putting a lot on
difficult
them.
decision and situation.
It's an emotionally hard.
100%.
Yeah, because the fire that moves from somebody who's outside of the ETJ onto somebody else, now they get
Well,
responsibility.
and here's the harder part.
Where do you stop the
We
fire?
can't
You sit in
spend
the
money
house.
we don't have because it's an emotionally difficult decision.
Completely agree.
Well, what it does is it compromises those who do pay for services.
Right.
Now you might be on a call out in a mud somewhere and then I need EMS or my house burns down because you're across the, the county doing something that we're not even getting paid to do.
And that has already happened in
And
other
that's not
cities.
okay.
That has already happened in other cities.
Oh, yeah. It happened
Which
in
is why
Princeton recently.
Bill's just said, we're done, we're in the city, you all just figure it out, we're out.
Well, there's a value to the services that we do provide in this spectrum.
Right.
And I think the first step is to identify that value and to make sure the folks that are having to make these kind of decisions understand that you are choosing to accept to pay that value or not.
Right.
And that's really the beginning part to this is to say, hey, if you want out, this is what it's going to cost to maintain this or not, or say no, it's not an option.
Right.
That's the vision that I think has to be established very quickly.
And the sad part is like the mayor mentioned, there are some, they're not buds, but they're out in the county, and they advertise being in the county, and this and that, and
They market it.
they market it that way, and we're talking to the developers, but the end user are residents of the county or the ETJ or wherever, and they don't know this type of stuff. So we're telling developers when they
Because
come
they
in
don't
and hey,
understand.
here's what could happen, and not trying to be scare tacticy, but we don't have the sewer and water as to get people to annex in anymore, right?
Right.
And it's the reality of truth of what's covered. And we actually had one of the developers, I think they were actually in our list that requests out of the ETJ that are doing lower density residential that are now going,
Thinking about
okay,
it.
maybe we'll go ahead and come in.
Maybe we'll come back in.
We'll-
Right.
You want full coverage insurance or liability only?
Or none at all. None at all.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't gonna have anything at all.
Well, and I would just remind you to watch very closely in Collin County.
Yeah.
This is the peak of a high density county area in a vote probably going to happen in November or whatever that may be that will set the precedence for a lot of different perspectives.
Right.
So I just encourage you to watch that closely.
So maybe we'll know more when we have our budget workshop in a couple of weeks, and we can revisit this a little bit. It's Captain Green over there, so we'll know more. I hope. I have that from the county.
Well, it's what we don't know that worries me. How many more of these developments?
That
are
we
coming
have no
that
idea.
We haven't seen.
This
we
is
don't
just
have
what
any
we
heads
found.
up on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what we could find, so. Okay, so if we're done with that, it's just something for you guys to start thinking about, because we're gonna have to make some tough decisions coming forward. Let's go on to agenda item number 7, and Courtney, you've got the legislative updates for us.
Yes, we've gone through in the past most of what was covered at the legislative wrap-up session with TML last week, but I do want to talk about a couple of bills that we haven't covered before. One is Senate Bill 1106, and it requires cities to post PID service plans on the city website within 7 days of approving or amending those. And so we are having a lot of PIDs, and this is something that we are going to have to focus on. The other one is House Bill 1883. I don't think you have any impact fees right now, but at the rate you're growing, you're probably looking at doing a capital improvements plan and land use assumptions so that you can collect impact fees.
What impact fees? Would normally be sewer and water, which we don't have.
Streets.
So street only.
Streets, yes. So, there are some new requirements for purposes of transparency of posting or making available to the public your capital improvement plans and your land use assumptions 60 days in advance of setting a public hearing. Also, approval of these is going to require a 2/3 vote of the council. There are a lot of other changes in that bill, but just since I know that's something we've got to start looking at. That's a bill that we need to pay attention to. And finally, we have talked about House Bill 1522, which is the one that affects meeting notices. You know, it went from 72 hours to 3 days. There's a lot of
3 business days. Yeah.
3 business days. There's a lot of discussion because the legislature did not define what is 3 business days. So our firm and a lot of firms like us that represent cities are going with the most conservative advice on that. So, for example, on our meeting today, starting on Thursdays, starting on September 1st, we would not count the day of the meeting as a business day. We would back it up and say Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. Those are our 3, and we got to post on Friday, the Friday before your Thursday meeting. That makes sure we are safe and not getting in trouble with public or open meetings laws. So it's going to require staff to have agendas ready earlier and all of those things. So those are just the 3 that I thought were key for this. Most of the rest of them we've already talked about.
Well, that calculation, Courtney, is going to put it at 4 business days prior to the meeting.
No, because we're not counting the day we post, because if we post at 4 p.m. that day, that business day is virtually over. So we're not counting the day of the post or the day of the meeting. We're putting 3 days.
3 days in between. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are can't touch. Have to go with the Friday to get the Thursday.
You post, that doesn't make it 4 days in advance, 4 business days in advance.
Posting at 5 o'clock on Friday, you counted Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the meeting on Thursday does not count.
Yeah.
So it's 3 days.
And I've already started a little process I'm going to be sending.
We just gonna do it on
We're
Friday
gonna
to
ruin
be
the-
No,
safe.
because there's going to be days.
Nobody's leaving at 1
Thursday.
o'clock on
They
I won't
Fridays
be there on
anymore.
a Friday.
We're gonna be stuck with putting the agenda in.
Well, that's just the safest way to do it, in our opinion. So,
I'm cool being
Of course,
safe.
you're always welcome to do what you want to do, but that's our advice.
No, we've already
Just some
done
advice.
that. We've replaced that.
Okay, so can we move to number 8? All right, so I'm hoping y'all let ratify this because I did it. Really hoping you'll help me out. This is for Block Road. And it's because Commissioner Marr said, I'm out there Monday. I'm gonna do it for you, that's okay. I'm like, yes, let's get it done. Only $6,000. But it's a little backwards, but we would have missed it and it would have been done. And the citizens really want Block Road to be done. So this ILA is for what we just did. $6,124.44.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Got David first for proof. Second. Cindy with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Yours
so
off the
much. That's unanimous. Appreciate that, guys.
I would've
And I
messed
know
with it.
everybody that has to use Block Road is really appreciative too. That we didn't wait and then miss the opportunity and have to come back later. Okay.
I want to say something real quick
Yeah.
on this. We have lots of roads that we share with the county, and
Yeah.
long-term, what I'd like to see is we get an agreement with the county to just handle those roads, and we just give them a
Stipend of our portion.
yes.
That's
So-
what number 9 is.
Because citizens don't want to have to figure out
It's a version
who
of
do they
that.
got to call to get
Right.
the pothole fixed.
Yes.
And oh, I called the wrong agency, so sorry. And then they get this all the time.
Going
It'd
back.
be nice to just be able
Not
to
mine,
call
not
up
mine.
and say, it's gonna get fixed, and somebody will go out and do it.
Or better, here's what we can do on our new mapping system. We can have a street layer where, just like with development agreements, you can look at an area, oh, that has an agreement on it. You can click on it and the development agreement will open for you. You can find out more about it.
Even better.
Read it for yourself.
Well-
We can do a street layer that has, once we know something's upcoming and we get that plan together with whichever commissioner or whatever, then we can go in and put, they can click on that and go, oh, this one will be done at, spot reconstruction or full reconstruction on November 2026, or whatever it is that it's slated for, or TBD, to be determined.
Well,
We
okay.
can put that layer on our map.
Anything that lets people know more about what's going on is always good.
Yes. What do you say?
We don't have a pothole, we have another road.
So like McConnell
Mhm.
goes city, county, I think.
Yeah,
Well, there's a.
And
More of our
there's-
streets do
there's-
that than,
Bounds does that too.
There's a bunch of them,
yeah.
but what this is gonna allow us to do, from when we talked with Josh, is if they're going to Bounds, or they're going to McConnell to do something, they can go ahead and just fix what needs to be fixed while they're there, as opposed, it's just more efficient, instead of, hey, we're out on McConnell, do you need anything, or worst case, they were out on McConnell, we didn't know about it, and then we got a problem on McConnell. Well, we were just there last week, we'll see you in 6 months.
Exactly, because that's how they are, these two commissioners have a plan.
Yeah.
They're literally putting their plan to paper too, and they're committing themselves, so if we miss it, we can't come back, we just missed the window for probably a good long
Yeah,
time.
and there's no reason for the city to be planning those shared
No, we
roads,
don't do the
because
work.
the county's already doing all the work.
Yeah, so it just makes sense,
And
which
it's
is
not
what
like, we're never gonna have a pothole, we know we're gonna have a
we
pothole.
know we are.
Just budget the money for it
While
and let
you're
them
here.
fix it while they're there. They're already out there with the machines.
Right, re-engaging is what costs them. so
Yes,
much more money.
exactly.
100%.
It's a small cost,
And
just
then
go
you
do
gotta
one more
wait.
pothole on the other side of the city limits line.
Yep.
But it's a whole big cost to bring a bunch of trucks out for one pothole in the city.
Plus they have the more equipment and the personnel that know what they're doing.
Right.
Which is what they do every day.
It's safer that way too.
Well, connecting the two.
So that's what number 9 is. I brought you an ILA. This is just the first one that Josh was able to prepare real quickly for this meeting, and that is to just have an automatic, we approve them to do 20 hours and do this on an annual basis. I think we'll come back and probably do this a couple more times. I'm gonna try to put it in the budget we've got a street fund, so we're gonna look at this, and probably this will be 2 or 3 times if they need to do it
We hope.
in the year. We
I
hope.
hope it's 5 times.
I want them to do it. Yeah, go get it done. So this is for 20 hours, which is $5,900. $59.35.70 to be clear. And, this agreement would just allow them, when they are out there, to do what you just said. We're out here, we're gonna go ahead and do yours while we're out here. And then he'll just tell me how much, and then we've already approved it. We send a check.
So it's 20 hours, how do they give us a fee for the amount of product, or, I mean?
No, they've built
That's-
the
this
product
is
into
built
the
into
hour,
it.
so if they spend 30 minutes fixing a pothole, that
Right.
30 minutes
Translates
includes.
to how
Solve
much
this.
cold patch it might have.
Well, because, I mean,
It's already included.
if you fix a pothole this big, or you fix a pothole that big, this one takes twice as much,
The
this one
time.
takes half as much, it's not like rocket science, right?
It's just by the time, by the hour. So that's good, and I'm thinking, okay, 20 hours of pothole patching for $5,900, $5,935.
Can we ever
70?
bring?
Commissioner Marr is very detailed,
He's very detailed, which I love,
and 70 cents.
No,
and
That
70
like when
cents.
it runs out, it gets renewed?
no.
That would be much easier.
But
Well,
what
have
we
to
can
budget
do is I
to
can build
budget.
that into the budget, knowing that, put 5 of these in there, and then as we go through it,
It's just an
like, hey
amendment.
guys, it's on the budget, can y'all approve this for Adam, because it's over $3,000, he has to come back to you. But, will you go ahead and approve this?
Well, once the
And that's
commissioners
easy.
get a better plan for their roads and a better feel for how
We'll know
often
better.
we're having to fix the potholes, and we've done this a few times, we'll know how many hours
We'll
they
know
really
exactly.
need, and we can start budgeting it on an annual basis with more accuracy. We still have a lot of data right now.
Yeah. So instead of having one.
We don't, and they don't.
Well, then on some, like
Figure
on
out.
Platinum Ranch, or like the Mud is doing, we'll try to get the developer to work to redo the whole surfacing, so it's totally improved.
Which is why we
Subgrade
didn't resurface
everything.
block.
Right.
We did spot
Because the
reconstruction.
subgrades are very problematic on a lot of our streets, and that's why we continuously have to or they have water washing through them and undermining it, that's never getting fixed, so you just want resurfacing it, but the
Until
water
we
is
fix the
washing it out.
drainage. So
Well,
this is a start.
I make a motion, we accept this ILA the way it's written for $5,935.70 for 20 hours of discretionary work by the county on the shared road.
Thanks, Councilman Steve, because you already pulled the trigger on his own budget.
So William with a
That was
first,
the other one.
Alan with a second, all in favor?
Uh,
All right, that's unanimous.
And
Thank
one
you so
refreshing
much.
change that, we didn't come up with this, Josh did,
Yes.
and he approached us on it.
Mm-hmm, you did?
That didn't happen in the past. We could have been
No.
doing this for the last 20 years.
Well, I don't have to call it.
20,
2 o'clock in the
and-
morning
and
anymore,
actually-
just hang up.
Lindsay's reached out to me, and of course, some of the mayors in her precinct, we're gonna meet here in a few weeks, also, and kind of game plan our precinct with Lindsay, and all of us get together, so
Yeah.
that, you know, what we finish and it picks up somewhere else, we have that consistency, so we can get stuff cleaned up. I mean, I love how focused they are, they've been great.
Yeah.
So, we are on, that was, I don't have anything in my tab. Well, that's because we didn't have the development agreement. We had language that needed updating. And are we pulling this into executive?
Yes,
Or is
because,
it, okay,
because we have not reached agreement yet on exactly what that language looks like, so we need to discuss the most recent version.
okay, so Lance and Sugi are here. Congratulations.
Thank
He's
you.
got a brand new baby. 2
Yep.
days old?
2 days old.
2 days old, almost delivered it himself.
So,
Oh
it was
my
a long
God.
story.
Almost delivered at home himself.
Oh, it was delivered at home, he just
It was,
did it
yeah.
himself.
Oh, it was delivered at home.
It was a
But he
design
almost
on
had to
birth.
do it.
Uh,
Yeah.
But yeah, midwife came in,
Yeah.
I would say a couple minutes before it all happened, so.
Yeah.
Oh,
And mom and baby are doing good.
Doing great, thank you.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Yes.
So I hate that you guys are sitting here waiting for us. Is there something we need to do because you're here? Is there anything that we can,
I think just probably go
Talk
into
about?
executive session. I will take a few minutes and visit with these guys.
Okay.
And then I'll join you.
perfect? Okay, so we will, go to executive session at 7:20.
first.
Okay.
What?
All right, we're gonna reconvene to open session. It is 8:26. And, so we need to take if there's any action from executive session, we need to do that
First,
before
and there's,
we bring anything back out to discuss open.
right, there's no action as a result of A, the
Okay.
discussion in A, because that will come back out to item number 10.
Right,
So the action as to B is to, if somebody wants to make a motion along the lines of authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service consulting agreement for anticipated litigation.
So we're not gonna,
We're gonna do that back under number 10, not
we're bringing
number A.
BNSF out, back into the open, but we gotta take advantage of anything, if there's something we wanna do from executive, we gotta do that
We
before
were
we
going to beach.
Okay,
go back into open.
so I'll make a motion that we authorize the mayor to enter into a consulting agreement for anticipated litigation with an attorney of proper and appropriate qualifications.
I'll second.
Okay, so William with the first, Dave with a second. All in favor?
I,
Okay, that is unanimous. Okay, so now we're gonna pull BNSF out of executive session. And
Oh, we're
then
just going back to number 10.
back to number 10.
Yeah.
Where we were originally. Now that we've had our questions answered, so.
Okay, so you all know we entered into a development agreement with BNSF.
I think it was January.
Yeah,
What year?
not very long ago.
The recent one in January.
January 21st of 2025.
Yes.
Since then, and the city staff and BNSF have been working very closely together on getting plans put together so we can move forward with zoning and platting for the property. And during that process, the parties agree that the development agreement needs to be amended. So as part of that amendment, we would be, or what we are proposing to you guys, first of all, is that the agreement section 2.1 would be amended to reduce the amount of time before the portion of the property that's in the county would be annexed from, currently I believe it's 5 years in the current agreement. We'll reduce that to 36 months, or basically 3 years from the time we get the zoning approved for the portion that's in the property, inside the city limits right now. So that's the first change. The second change has to do with fencing requirement in the buffer zone, because it really is already addressed with the language that requires the berms and the trees and all of those things. So there was a couple of sentences in there that could be removed, and BNSF asked for them to be removed, and we recommend that those sentences be removed. The biggest thing that the amendment is for is the permitted uses of property. So in our original agreement, there were certain permitted uses that were not allowed on certain parcels, or required, well, actually, I would say weren't allowed on different properties. So what we're proposing now is that the list of permitted uses be allowed on what we originally called Lot 5, and do you remember what that, Lot 13? Those are the two southernmost lots.
Yeah.
That all of the uses be allowed. However, if on both of these tracts, if the uses are not enclosed, there will be an additional 300-foot
More buffer.
setback from the buffer. If they are enclosed, and we're talking about these heavier industrial uses,
Yeah.
then they would not have the additional 300-foot setback because they're
Because they would be
enclosed.
enclosed.
We're adding this verbiage.
Yes, and we're adding verbiage that provides that the enclosed operations are the primary fabrication, assembly, or manufacture, so that outside storage would always be allowed. It's the actual, welding or whatever the heavier industrial use is.
Right.
That would be either enclosed or would have an additional 300-foot setback from the buffer zone. The other thing that changed is that is that the operating track? Is that what I call it? Okay.
Operating loop.
It's an operating loop, and this would allow trains to come in through our 500-foot buffer zone. It doesn't allow
They
them,
not sit there.
not allowed to sit there, but allows them to get in and to move through the property. So that would allow track in the buffer zone,
Which they gotta have. That's a
which they've
smart-
gotta have. So it's a clarification of,
So, okay, but I wanna make sure I understand. So even where that track is, there's still a 500-foot buffer, and then if they're gonna do heavy industrial or whatever, then there's 300 above that?
yes,
So it'd be 800
More.
feet from the.
yes.
Okay,
Unless it's
Yeah.
enclosed.
Unless it's enclosed. If it's enclosed, then they don't have the additional 300
right, but
feet.
they still have 500.
They still have the 500.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're not reducing that buffer, we're only just allowing that one track.
No, the buffer's not being reduced at all, but we are allowing an operational track
Okay,
for them to get trains in and out. And then allowing the heavier industrial uses if it's enclosed or the 300-foot buffer, in addition to the 500-foot buffer.
So it's known as a setback. not a buffer.
So the default is 500 feet and enclosed, and if they don't want to enclose it, then it's another 300 feet.
Yes.
And those are, in the original one that we had, it was the M1 plus like 6 uses.
Yes.
So we're still talking about the same uses.
We're still talking about the same uses.
It's just we're gonna allow that buffer to come back if it's enclosed.
Yes.
Okay,
no,
I understand.
it's still 500 feet.
Not the buffer, but
No.
the
Setback.
The setback.
addition, it's an additional
It would have
setback.
been 800,
Got it.
but we're allowing that backward
We're on the same.
Yes.
if it's enclosed. Right. That
Yes.
just makes sense. Actually, I was
Okay, I make a
Would think that would
motion,
actually
I
be
make
better.
a motion that we accept these amendments. Oh, I'm sorry, did you want to discuss something?
I just wanted to
Okay.
ask,
pop up, Mark, if you wanna speak, go ahead.
Mark Merrill, 71 Mallard Court. My only question is, how many tracks are you allowing in the buffer zone? One, multiple?
One.
Is it gonna be a siding
It's
yard?
just one.
One, it's
Mark,
just,
think
it's an
about
in and out
Each
track.
one of these buildings or
I
facilities.
got
will have a
that.
spur.
I just wanted
They
to
gotta
make
be able
sure.
to get to the main.
It's
one.
one set of
I
tracks.
understand, I just wanted to make sure it's one track.
One set of tracks is identified on the site plan that's attached to the
It is.
PA.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the
Okay,
one.
so I make a motion that we accept these amendments as discussed.
Okay. I've got Cindy with a first
I'll second.
and Alan with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We can
Okay,
give it to you.
that's unanimous. Amendment approved.
We'll get them to you.
I'll get you the agreements.
Well, I broke down my little CD that was.
Okay, so I think we are finished. We covered everything right before I adjourn, and we will
We
adjourn
did.
at 8:35.